Imagine you're at a local farmer's market on a Saturday morning. You go to buy your usual coffee and bagel, something you do every week. But today, the price of that bagel has doubled. Last month, it was $2. Now, it's $4. And the vendor shrugs. I'm paying twice as much for flour, so what can I do? A few weeks later, it's $8. Then, $16. Soon, you need a stack of cash just to cover breakfast. This isn't science fiction. It's what happens when money loses its meaning. And if you've ever wondered why governments don't just print more cash to fix economic problems, this slow-motion breakdown is exactly why. Let's start with a basic truth. Money isn't wealth. It's a placeholder, a ticket we use to claim real things like food, housing, or medical care. The actual wealth in any society comes from what people produce. Farms growing crops, factories building goods, engineers designing technology, teachers educating students. When a government prints more money without increasing these real outputs, it doesn't create new value. It just gives everyone more tickets to chase the same number of prizes. Think of it like concert tickets. Suppose there's a sold-out show with only 1,000 seats. If the venue suddenly issues 5,000 tickets instead of 1,000, does that mean 5 times as many people can attend? Of course not. There are still only 1,000 seats. What changes is that now, everyone holding a ticket thinks they have a better chance, so they're willing to pay more to get in. Scalpers take advantage, prices soar, and in the end, most people either overpay or get locked out. The extra tickets didn't expand the venue. They just made access chaotic and unfair. That's inflation in action. Now, scale this up to an entire economy. When central banks flood the system with currency, especially without a plan tied to real production, the immediate effect often looks positive. Wages appear higher, debts feel easier to manage, but soon, businesses notice something. Their customers all seem to have more cash. So they raise prices not because costs went up yet, but because they can. Once that starts, it triggers a chain reaction. Workers demand higher pay to keep up. Employers agree, but then pass those costs on to consumers. Suppliers see rising demand and increase their prices too. And just like that, the whole system begins chasing its own tail. This feedback loop becomes dangerous when it spirals beyond control. Historically, countries that abandoned restraint in money creation didn't do so out of ignorance. They did it out of desperation. Take Germany, in the early 1920s. After World War I, the nation faced impossible war debts, political instability, and collapsing tax revenues. Instead of restructuring its economy or seeking negotiated relief, the Weimar government chose to print vast amounts of paper currency to meet obligations. At first, it worked on paper. Civil servants got paid. Bills were settled, but within months, prices began shifting daily. By late 1923, families needed suitcases full of banknotes to buy groceries. A single loaf of bread cost hundreds of billions of marks. Savings evaporated overnight. Pensions became worthless. Trust in institutions collapsed, and in that vacuum rose forces that would reshape Europe forever. Fast forward to Zimbabwe in the 2000s. Land reforms aimed at correcting colonial-era inequalities disrupted one of Africa's most productive agricultural sectors. Output plummeted. Unemployment spiked. With little income coming in from taxes or exports, the government turned to printing money to fund public spending. The result? One of the worst episodes of hyperinflation ever recorded. In 2008, annual inflation reached levels so high, economists struggle to express them meaningfully. Some estimates place it above 89 sextillion%. To put that in perspective, if you'd saved $100 at the start of the year, by December, it wouldn't even cover the cost of printing the zeros needed to write down the current price of a cup of tea. Venezuela followed a similar path 2 decades later. Rich in oil, the country once enjoyed relative prosperity. But reliance on a single export, combined with state control over key industries and suppression of private enterprise, left the economy fragile. When global oil prices crashed after 2014, revenue dried up. Rather than reform inefficient systems or diversify the economy, leaders kept promises to citizens by printing money to maintain subsidies and social programs. The Bolivar collapsed. Prices changed faster than shopkeepers could update signs. People resorted to bartering, trading phone credit for milk, or using cryptocurrency to bypass the national currency entirely. These aren't outliers. Hungary in the 1,940 seconds. Yugoslavia in the 1,990 seconds. Each case shows the same pattern. Short-term relief through money creation leads to long-term disaster. And here's a critical point often missed. Even if newly printed money is used only to pay foreign debt, the damage remains. International investors watch monetary supply closely. When they see unchecked expansion, confidence erodes. They know that flooding the market with currency devalues every unit, including those held abroad. Lenders won't accept repayment in rapidly depreciating money. It's like being paid back in monopoly cash after lending real dollars. Eventually, credit dries up completely. So what actually works? Real economic growth doesn't come from printing presses. It comes from investment in education, infrastructure, innovation, and institutional stability. Countries like South Korea and Singapore didn't become prosperous by inflating their way out of poverty. They built skilled workforces, encouraged entrepreneurship, protected property rights, and integrated into global markets. Their currencies gained strength not because they printed less, but because the world trusted what those currencies represented: consistent value, backed by real productivity. There's also a deeper lesson about fairness. Inflation acts like a hidden tax, except it hits hardest on those who can least afford it. Wealthy individuals hold assets like stocks, real estate, or foreign currency, which tend to rise in value during inflation. Low-income households live paycheck to paycheck, relying on savings that quickly lose purchasing power. Pensioners on fixed incomes see their life savings shrink silently. Printing money might look neutral on the surface, but its consequences are deeply unequal. Today, many nations face tough choices: rising deficits, aging populations, climate-related disruptions. Some propose modern forms of money creation, like quantitative easing or digital central bank currencies. These tools aren't inherently dangerous, but history warns us: intent matters less than impact. As long as new money isn't matched by increases in real output goods, services, energy, innovation, the risk of erosion remains. Ultimately, economies thrive not because people have more digits in their bank accounts, but because they can reliably access what they need: shelter, food, healthcare, opportunity. No amount of paper can substitute for that. Money only holds value when it reflects something tangible, when it measures real progress, rather than masking stagnation. And that's a principle no government, no matter how powerful, can afford to ignore.